First thing, we have the approval of minutes or any additions or corrections to the minutes that were published for April 20th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion from Kevin to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
I have a second from Chad. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Could you pass these down now?
Absolutely.
Okay, next thing on the agenda, we have Marissa Durkholz. Marissa, if you would, I'd like you to come up and identify yourself and who you're with. And I do want to clarify, I don't want to get into a debate at this meeting, as there's other prescribed opportunities to address the issues from the Mid-States Corridor Tier 1 study. The VUJ administration building is still open for comment until June 1st, I think it is. And we all have the same opportunity to provide feedback on that. Our city council had engaged in the study, and we did that to address specific development and safety concerns, the growth that's been realized in our own area. We're going to await the final results before we debate that here at council. So the study and the recommendations can be made out at the VUJ. As council, if we don't manage the growth of our future, then we don't know what the future consequences will be. So the study was appropriate for us to initiate, but I don't believe it's appropriate to debate the merits of the road at the city council meeting until the final study has been completed. But I do want to open it up for 5 minutes for discussion, your presentation.
Okay. My name is Marissa Durkholz.
Push the little.
Would you hit the red button?
Say, if you're more comfortable at the standing podium,
Or said either one?
do you?
I'll sit, that's fine.
And there's a red button.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Marissa Durkholz. My address is 323 North Trainer Lane, Jasper. I realize I live right outside city limits, but I come here as a voice for the public. As you can tell by most council meetings, very few topics get much public attendance. If agendas aren't posted until a few days before, most don't even know what's being discussed. Even for topics that the public is extremely interested in, they don't come due to being too afraid to speak because everyone knows everyone in Jasper, or they feel their voice won't matter. That's also a reason why people don't vote. They don't think their one vote makes a difference, but Jasper knows from a past mayoral race that one vote, one voice means everything. Knowing everyone is both a good and a bad quality for a small town. In this case, with a major project like Mid-States Corridor that many businesses are supporting and funding, many fear if they speak out against this road or even sign a petition, they'll be fired. That's bad. But if you have a handful or more constituents present at a meeting, like we see here tonight, that should tell you something. If the public thinks funding for this project will be discussed and it was adequately advertised to notify the public, you can see how many people are willing to be present. So if you came here tonight because you're against any funding for the Mid-States Corridor, can you please stand up or raise your hand?
Acknowledged.
Thank you. With that in mind, I'd like to ask the Common Council a couple questions in terms of public funding. According to City Council meeting minutes 6/19/2023, the City of Jasper gave $25,000 to the I-67 Development Corporation. They approved spending $1.4 million on September 19th, 2018 for the Tier 1 Environmental Impact Study for the Mid-States Corridor. Does the City of Jasper plan to spend any more taxpayers' dollars towards future environmental impact studies for the Mid-States Corridor during Tier 2?
We have not discussed that, and we were not in a position to make any kind of decision on that until we have. Like I said, you're asking questions. I'd like you to present. This is not a debate.
Okay. Do you know if the Mid-States Corridor Regional Development Authority is unable to get more public funding, can the Tier 2 Environmental Impact Study continue through other funding sources?
Can't say.
Why not?
Can't comment on it.
Why
I don't
not?
know.
Well, the City of Jasper signed an agreement with the RDA, so.
For the Tier 1 study.
Well, the agreement is with the RDA, Regional Development Authority, for the Mid-States Corridor, not just for the funding.
Well, yeah, you're right. We are a member of the RDA. We have representation of the RDA.
Okay. Well, as public, we should understand that if public funds doesn't pay for the road, where is that funding going to come from? If you entered into an agreement with RDA?
There hasn't been any agreement at this point in time for any future funding. The only funding that was agreed to is what has already been provided and approved. Nothing else.
Any future funding would have to come back before the council to be approved.
Okay. Next, I just kind of wanted to present that I have a huge stack of petitions here signed by constituents that are opposed to the corridor. No matter where it goes, these were signed before the route was chosen. They don't want the road, period. I understand that you have a copy of that, so I'm not going to provide a copy for the record. One reason being that, as I mentioned previously, a few people who signed were worried they might lose their job. I know you don't have to put out a notice for everything that's discussed, but when you're discussing entering into a contract with other cities and counties with the Regional Development Authority and voting to spend money on a project heavily opposed by regular everyday citizens, I think we deserve to know, especially because we have no power to remove members of the RDA or stop the agreement. Even if we voted out every person in Jasper, it wouldn't matter because the RDA requires 3/4 of the executive members, which includes Jasper Mayor, Huntingburg Mayor, Du Bois County Commissioners, and Spencer County Commissioners to remove someone. We can't vote out people in Huntingburg or Spencer County, so we really have no control. That's a lot different than any other city-appointed boards where the mayor himself or the Jasper Common Council can remove someone and both have ultimate control over the board. Another big difference between the Regional Development Authority and other boards is that they were given power to acquire land and property, also known as eminent domain. I've asked the project office twice now who has the power of eminent domain for this project. Is it the Federal Highway Administration or is it the RDA? If it's both agencies, where's the statute or law that combines the Federal Highway Administration with the local Regional Development Authority? Someone needs to answer this question. As the public, we demand to know this before that study moves forward. If the project office doesn't know the answer, we request that the comment period be extended until we get this answered. This should not get the stamp of approval and go into the Federal Register as a final EIS if citizens don't even know what law or regulation will be followed should their home, business, or farm be impacted. I'm providing a copy of the Indiana RDA statute so you can clearly see their powers over land and property. I want to point out that for decades, this project and its many attempts to pass public and regulatory scrutiny has been touted as crucial and necessary because of congestion and safety. This was a core goal when this started. It was outlined in 2017 white paper to Governor Holcomb that this road project would alleviate congestion and reduce crash costs. Safety was presented to the public as a part of the purpose and needs in 2019 and 2020 during public meetings. During the study, it was removed as a core goal and placed as a secondary goal. This was misleading to the public. I'm providing screenshots from Mid-States Corridor web pages that shows this history of safety being removed as a factor. I want this entered into the public record. This road isn't going to even help with the main area the public would like to see fixed, but yet up to 149 people, businesses, or farms could be displaced. The stakeholders for the Mid-States Corridor project say we need this road for regional connectivity, increased labor force, and to reduce travel time.
I'd ask that you wrap up in about a minute, okay? I'll give you one more minute.
Okay. It's kind of a shame that, at the project, we're only given 2 minutes and I can't speak here either. Does the public's voice matter? Because we don't have millions of dollars to boost economic development in Indiana, our voice isn't as important. Now you can see why hardly anyone wants to be involved in politics or show up to meetings. You have to know people or have lots of money for your voice to carry any weight. In a small community where everyone knows everyone, it's sad to know that my home and so many others might be sacrificed in the name of regional economic development. In the 2017 white paper to Governor Holcomb, it said that the highway taps into Southwest Indiana's existing major assets, one of which is available land for development. Business owners that have pushed this project have basically threatened the cities and county that if this road isn't built, businesses will leave. They've been saying this for at least a couple decades, and all the major companies are still here. They aren't staying because of the hope of a future road. They stay because this area has good people, great work ethic, something that's truly hard to find, especially now. You know what kids call someone who forces people to do what they don't want to do against their will? It's a bully. The public is tired of being bullied and manipulated on various studies with the looming threat that one day you may be forced from your home or farm. Some families have been stuck in limbo for 20-plus years because some powerful people can't stop focusing on this road. But I know it goes much further than Jasper, and I hope you know that too. This project, as the former I-67 was supposed to connect to I-69 in Washington, now it's Crane. Crane has an interstate right next to them already. They don't need another major road. They are connected already. The rest of us can get to an interstate within 20 to 25 minutes, and we're happy with that. But again, I guess it's more about the businesses than about everyday Indiana taxpayers. I'm speaking for all opposed to this Mid-States Corridor project.
Thank you, Marissa.
I'm almost finished. We do not want any more taxpayer money spent on any further studies or construction. We support the planned improvements to US 231 only. We oppose any new terrain highway as a waste and abuse of taxpayers' money, which will end up being all of Indiana residents should this terrible idea be brought to fruition. That money could be much better spent on transportation options that do not continue to contribute to climate change issues, more drug and human trafficking, destroying forests and farmland, and increasing pollution. Let's demand that money is spent more wisely across Indiana and especially here in Du Bois County.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I appreciate all perspectives being shared. That's what it's all about, and again, I encourage you to use those avenues that have been prescribed for us to voice those issues.
I have, but I'm tired of being reactive. I wanted to be proactive.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Can you take this for the record?
Yeah, I do have a copy, if that's the same that I received from Mark.
Not the petition, no.
Same.
But the Indiana statute, the screenshots that remove the safety as a core goal.
You can give those to the clerk treasurer.
Okay, thank you. And next up in the agenda is Darla Blasey and department presentation.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Just to, I guess, be here and thank the mayor for asking department leaders to come to the council and kind of give an update. What I have in front of you is a little summary of 2021, and you can read through those numbers. And also at the bottom, we listed the subdivisions that were approved for the year. And on the back side, we did a summary of the 15-year history for our improvement location permit, which is, a lot of people know as the building permit, and kind of did a wrap-up of by type at the bottom of the page. I just wanted to give you guys an update overall on 2021. The overall volume of permits was up 7%, had totaled 308 permits, and our department is made up of 3 people. We have a part-time planning technician, Steve Dills, and a full-time administrative assistant. Kathy Pfister was that person for 26 years, and she retired this year. So we now have Becky Moorman in that role, and she's been on board for over 90 days now. So she's doing a great job. Single-family and multifamily developments increased, as did commercial and industrial development in 2021. Our food trucks have been very successful in the last 3 years, and of course, last year was our highest number, which we're very proud of. The not only the food truck ordinance and that work that now the food trucks are doing in our community, but we've actually had one convert to bricks and mortar. So that was kind of the overall goal, was to have those trucks come locally, local businesses grow, as well as then go into bricks and mortar.
It seemed like on the food trucks that the places that they're specified to be able to have their food truck is sufficient.
Right now, it seems to be working pretty well. Schrader is the most popular, as well as the Chow Down. So those have been working well. And then on Saturdays, I think there's a truck in the downtown area now, which is Emerald Greens, which is a new truck, and so they have been on Saturdays. The BZA, Board of Zoning Appeals, heard 55 cases last year, and the Plan Commission approved 64 new lots with the capacity of 158 residential units. So those are single-family and multifamily units. We adopted the Du Bois County Bike and Pedestrian Plan. We adopted the City of Jasper Multimodal Transportation Plan. The Economic Development Commission granted tax abatement for a $17.5 million investment with Indiana Furniture Industries. The Redevelopment Commission did an RFP for the redevelopment of the Library Square, and that was awarded for a $2 million investment that's going to result in 18 residential units downtown. We also, with the Redevelopment Commission, approved a TIF for 80 units that would be residential at near the university, BUJ, for student and single family, and I think it's mostly single, one room or studio type units. And then Heart of Jasper, we work closely with them. We were involved with the Preserving Indiana program that we applied for. We were a top 5 finalists out of 70 applicants, and I think we learned a lot as a committee on that particular program, as well as the success that's happening right now with the facade grant program that the Heart of Jasper is managing. Also, at the end of the year, beginning of this year, Du Bois County was recognized or as part of a program called Sustaining Hoosier Communities. So that's something that's going to be happening this year, as well as the HOPE program. I think that's what it's called, right? I'm not too involved with that one, but
Help.
help. Just a few things to let you know about that for this year. Of course, our big project that's getting underway very soon is the Courthouse Square Infrastructure and Revitalization Project. We will be helping to serve as communication for that, pushing information out so that people stay up to date with that. Ragel has been appointed that our contractor for that particular project, and we are working with them still to get some official start date, I guess. But it should be either next week with a meeting or
We have a
shortly after that.
construction progress meeting coming up on May 25th.
And I think that was just announced maybe this morning. I've been in French Lick at a Radius event all day, and so I know the department head meeting was this morning. Also, Du Bois Strong is working on a county-wide industrial site survey and inventory, and so there have been some areas in Jasper that have been included on that. I don't think that's quite final yet, but that's been in the works. And then Radius Indiana, the Jasper Chamber and Heart of Jasper are also working on be part of a program called Recast Cities, and that's going to be encouraging small, light manufacturing to find space in the downtown area for new growth. One of the things I'd like to have our intern, who is going to be starting on Monday, his name is Will Messmer, is working on investigating a front porch grant program for residential facade improvements. And so we hope that something like that could get started, maybe in or near the downtown. And then we also want to work on leveraging our strongest town designation that we received this year. So I'll take any questions if you have any. Okay, Dave?
Darla, I do have a question about the food trucks. The food truck has a permit. Does the permit cover if they make their food like at their home? Is their home covered?
So within our permit process, they have to provide us with a health department certificate of approval or operation. And so they have to operate out of a commercial kitchen or lease a commercial kitchen where they would take, like a commissary kitchen, where they would take their scrap waste waters back to an officially approved kitchen.
Thank you.
Can that be in a residential neighborhood?
Yeah.
Yes. They can't operate their food truck at their home, though.
Right.
And they can't operate a food truck outside of the designated areas of the ordinance.
Other than if it's a private event. If it's a
If it's a catered event, yes, that's true.
catered event.
I think you're next.
On your first page here, the total building permits, is that all residential?
That's all
That's all of them?
of them.
Do you have a breakdown of what residential or how many?
Like single family?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the back page, at the bottom of this chart. So there were 38 residential, single family, 6 multifamily, 12 commercial, 3 industrial, and then the remainder of that are probably yard barns, fences, pools, and signs.
Oh, so a building permit could be a fence?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, they can't, I'm sorry, you're right. No, that's separate.
So,
But an accessory structure or an addition would not be included in those separate broken down numbers.
The permit for the multifamily, though, Darla, would include things like Park Place, Legacy Living, the new Camelot renovation,
That'll probably be for this year.
City Heights, those kind of permits.
Right.
So a number of units, it's not just the number of units or residences, those are just the number of permits.
Right.
A duplex, we'll have a couple of those for this. Approved a couple of duplexes here lately that would fall under multifamily rather than single family.
when they file for a building permit, do they have like a residence as example, single?
Phil, is your speaker
Oh,
on?
I'm sorry. For like a single residence, when they fill out a permit, do they ask for or do you ask for a dollar amount that,
Yes.
okay, is that a public record? I'm asking for somebody else's, well, I just want to know, like,
Well, once they file that permit and it's approved, that's public record. So yeah, somebody could request.
have that information? I mean, do you log it or track it?
Yes.
38, okay.
Yes, and then we have that monthly report that we give out as well. I'm not sure where that's going to right now, if that goes to the council or not, but we do that. It goes to the assessor's office, Du Bois County Assessor.
I had somebody ask me about that.
That would,
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, I'd like to see it, only from the standpoint of just, it answers some questions of affordable housing, so. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
There's another plan, though, that we were a part of with Du Bois County, and that was the bicycle and pedestrian pathways that we received honors from the state for their.
Correct. That was, it received an outstanding plan award from the Indiana Planning Association.
And I think planning is just, you can't do anything without a plan anymore. You're not qualifying for any funding, and it's just critical. And I think that's what people I didn't understand that for years, and I finally gotten my hands around it, that you just aren't not even considered.
I'll tell you from our Region 15, I was a representative of that. If you don't have a plan in place, you're probably not going to get any funding at all. I mean, you have to have so many points ahead or in there and have a plan ready to go and what level your plan is at. If it's the initial planning phase, if you have steadfast plans ready to go, it all makes a difference when it comes into the funding.
And our comprehensive plan, we adopted that in 2019, but if you look through that already, you can see that we've checked off quite a few items within that plan. So it's a constant review, and a constant ask of the community what it is important to them.
And then, Darla, something we discussed here a couple of years ago is the pools and the fence. The fences, is that all kind of coming together as a pool and then a fence permit and all that working the way it's supposed to?
Yes, and that is something that we review. We audit those on an annual basis. So once we issue that permit, and Steve has a follow-up system in place to make sure that that fence is installed around that pool.
Steve has done an outstanding job with
He has.
Carla, on page 1, you show at the top half 3-year comparisons, except for the dollars invested, so that's for 2021 only, basically 86 million. How does that compare with those previous 2 years?
This is a much larger number than the previous year. I can't remember exactly off the top, but I want to say it was in the 46 million range. So it depends on what commercial and industrial projects that we have going on, or sometimes even institutional projects that are going to be those larger dollar values that bump that up.
There's a big chunk of this one, Chad, we talked about this at the planning meeting on there, but there's a large chunk of that one that is the county jail. The construction that's going on that, right? That's not something we'll see as recurring.
I mean, you have IFI out there
And
too,
IFI.
And Kimball's building a big warehouse.
We can break that down for you if you want to look at it, but we're working on that. We're trying to get everything in spreadsheets so that at a moment's notice, we can pull up and say where are we at with this.
I think legacy's on for this year.
The legacy is,
Would be for this year.
It would be on 22, not 20.
oh, yeah.
Stewart Hotel will be on for this year. If University Heights gets built, that would actually be on this year, so.
And in previous years, we had the River Center, we had the elementary school.
Right.
Cultural Center.
And there was probably the elementary school addition last year, too.
And then when someone is issued, let's say, a building permit, is there also a time frame on when they have to complete that project?
It's 6 months to begin, 2 years to complete.
Two-year completion might be a challenge nowadays.
6 month start might be a challenge.
Yeah.
I just recently had a engineering firm, just to talk about the future. They had asked about, we don't have local building code, so we don't issue certificate of occupancies as a community. And they were filing the fee and application for the site review up at the state for their project. And I think they were paying 3 times the amount that they normally would if the community did do that type of work. So I know in the past we've talked about the cost associated, but it might be something to look into again in the future.
We talked about that when working on the UDO, I believe.
Right. I had the conversation, and you guys brought it in front of the council before I was a council member with Darla sitting up there about building inspector and something that we could potentially do countywide, not just the city floated, the county, Jasper, Huntingburg, Verdon, sharing someone, figuring out how to make the shared services work in there. And, you know, we've had a long time of a lot of good homegrown local builders on there, and that may not always be the case in the future, that it may come to pass that needs to be.
And this is actually
priority list.
Commercial projects as well.
Well, based on these numbers, it would be enough to keep someone busy.
And the other thing is, I don't know who is involved with that HELP program, but from the county standpoint, the county still doesn't have zoning. And that would be something, I know that's probably a bad word, but
It's not
to
a
look
bad
at
word.
that combination of zoning, the long-range planning for the county, and then also a program like that could be shared.
I know they've been discussing addressing that in the future. They know they're needing that, so. And as last night at the resiliency, Region 15, resiliency study was released, and that was one of the big things, is the collaboration between governmental units, across units. You know, I think that's what's going to happen more and more, so that they'll see that need to work with us in these zoning areas and at a county level and a municipal level. So it'll be fun.
There's very few counties in the state of Indiana that don't have zoning. I think a handful at this point.
The problem is the pockets all around us. Therein lies the issue from past conversations we've had with the county, is it's a bunch of them that don't have zoning are all right down here around us.
Anything else for Darla? If not, Darla, I appreciate you coming in to the council and presenting tonight.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
An oversight on the agenda, and that's that we had taken action on ordinance number 2022-5 back in March.
April.
In April. And so it is actually eligible for the second and final reading here this evening. Now, this is an ordinance providing for the operation of a natural gas system owned by the city of Jasper, Indiana, and fixing a schedule of revised rates and charges for the sale of gas by the Jasper Municipal Gas Utility. It specifically in here was addressing, I thought the scoring, wasn't it?
That's correct. It was the ordinance that changed the scoring requirement for licensed gas installers from 70% to 80%. And then also changed the testing requirements from, I think it was 20 PSI of air for a minimum of 2 hours to 10 PSI for a minimum of 10 minutes. But the title to the ordinance reflects rates and charges, but that's just because the ordinance itself in our code, that's the title of that. So there are no rates being affected by this ordinance.
So are we readdressing 2022.5 or -5?
We passed it on first reading only.
It's up for second and third.
Should be more than that.
I'd like to ask for a motion to read the ordinance on the second reading.
It's the second reading. We have to do it twice.
Do a third, yes. So
Okay, on the second reading.
I would make a motion, Mayor, to pass and adopt on.
By title.
We'll do it by, I'll make a motion to have the 2022-5 read by title only.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
I have a second from Nancy. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Would the city attorney please read ordinance number 2022-5 by title only?
Ordinance number 2022-5, an ordinance providing for the operation of a natural gas system owned by the city of Jasper, Indiana, and fixing a schedule of revised rates and charges for the sale of gas by the Jasper Municipal Gas Utility.
Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance on the second reading?
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Kevin. Second from Phil. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll make a motion to be read for the third and final time, ordinance number 2022-5 by title only.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Paul and a second from Chad. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Would the city attorney please read ordinance number 2022-5 by title only?
Ordinance number 2022-5, an ordinance providing for the operation of a natural gas system owned by the city of Jasper, Indiana, and fixing a schedule of revised rates and charges for the sale of gas by the Jasper Municipal Gas Utility.
Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance on this third and final reading?
Second.
Motion from Chad and a second from Nancy. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ordinance number 2022-5 has been approved.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-7. This is an ordinance of the Common Council, City of Jasper, Indiana, fixing a schedule of revised rates and charges for the customers of the municipal water and gas utilities of the City of Jasper, Indiana. This is a first reading, so could I ask for a motion to read the ordinance on the first reading in full or by title only?
Make a motion to read by title only, please, Mayor.
Motion to read by title only by Paul.
I'll second it.
Second from Dave. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Would the city attorney please read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance number 2022-7, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, fixing a schedule of revised rates and charges for the customers of the municipal water and gas utilities of the City of Jasper, Indiana.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance in the first reading?
So moved.
Motion from John.
Second, Paul?
Second from Paul. Any further discussion on this?
Does anybody have any questions about the ordinance?
Just explain it.
Sure. The Indiana legislature, in its last session, passed legislation that repealed the utilities receipts tax and mandated that we remove that from our rates effective July 1st, 2022. So this ordinance simply takes that 1.46% out of our rates, and we will no longer be charging that to our customers effective July 1st, 2022.
It's a good thing for ratepayers. According to the minutes from the Utility Service Board, the state determined they had excess funds.
Yeah.
They didn't need this tax.
Who knew?
Okay, so I had a motion from John, a second by Paul. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ordinance number 2022-7 is passed first reading.
And is that a 3-reading ordinance also?
We will have to have a public hearing on that because that is a rate ordinance.
June?
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-8. And this is an ordinance, the Common Council, City of Jasper, Indiana, adopting a schedule of revised rates and charges for the customers of the municipal electric utility of the City of Jasper. And this also is available for the first reading. Could I have a motion to read the ordinance in the first reading in full or by title only?
Motion to read by title only.
I have a motion from Kevin to read by title only. And a second from Phil. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Would the city attorney please read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance number 2022-8, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, adopting a schedule of revised rates and charges for the customers of the municipal electric utility of the City of Jasper.
Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance in the first reading?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion from Kevin,
I'll second.
and a second from Dave. Further discussion?
So this does also include the repeal of that utility receipts tax. But in addition, and more importantly, we did go through an electric rate study. The electric committee met last, I think, Friday. Okay. And determined that based on the recommendations from Baker Tilly, who conducted the rate study, that they would go with alternative. There were 3 alternatives, and they went with alternative number 2. And so these rates reflect an increase in the rates based on the needs and recommendations outlined in the report that we received back from Baker Tilly, and in addition, the repeal of the utilities receipts tax.
It also has capital improvement in the rate study.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So is there like a percentage that they raised the rates then?
In total, the proposed is 3.5%. It averages out for the average consumer, $2.57 a month increase.
Then they get that credit to offset that even, don't they? Then they get the credit yet to offset that 250. Oh, it includes it. Okay.
That's a net.
The other alternatives was almost $4 on average increase and almost $2, so it's right in the middle there, $2.57.
I will tell you from a couple of meetings that I've attended on behalf of the city here lately, that especially on the electric end of things, we are very fortunate to have our own here coming through here. The Duke, or what is now known as CenterPoint, and I'm sure most of you have seen it in the news, is just going crazy with some of the rates at this point. So
I believe even with the rate increase, we are still second to the lowest in our area.
We're still under Huntingburg. We are, well, we'd be a tad ahead of Ferdinand, it looks like, but yeah, significant. I mean, Huntingburg's at 80.71 right now, so.
And people that live in the county not in those jurisdictional, are they on Synergy or Duke or someone else?
I don't know if REC
REC.
is doing
Oh, REC.
City Boys REC, but it was a hot button topic at a meeting last Wednesday.
I don't believe I've ever seen a comparison with our rates and REC that we're higher than REC.
They're at 97.52 per month on average.
I'd have to agree with Paul's comment. I think owning our own utility and managing it has been good for our residents, and they do a good job managing it. As a matter of fact, and especially with the electric, our internal costs to manage this structure of it is a very small percentage. Really is a pass-through of the utility from the rates coming from IMPA, and IMPA does a good job of managing that
I
part.
think it was less than 5%.
So I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And this is a first reading also, so then next month, the public hearing on this also, and then second and third.
Yep.
Confirmation on that, Nancy. Thank you. Ordinance number 2022-9, an ordinance adopting the purchasing policies for the city of Jasper, Indiana, which raises the authority from $1,000 to $3,000. This, I don't know, is this eligible for one reading only?
Yes.
It is eligible for one reading only. So could I have a motion to consider the ordinance for one reading only procedure?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I have a motion from Nancy.
I'll second.
I have a second from Phil. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Could I have a motion to have the ordinance read in full or by title only?
Move to read by title only.
I have a motion from Kevin for title only,
Second.
and a second from Paul. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Would the city attorney please read the ordinance 2022-9 by title?
Ordinance number 2022-9, an ordinance adopting purchasing policies for the city of Jasper, Indiana.
Okay, before we get started on it, the explanation is we had raised this in the utility side of things where the department leads had up to $3,000 purchasing authority before they had to go before their boards or commissions for approval, or their department heads for approval.
It's the utility, just by Indiana statute, there is no ordinance that dictates their purchasing power. They go through a different process and have their own policies. But we do, in that policy, say that their goal is to be consistent with what we do on the civil side, as far as bidding and getting quotes and all of those things.
And in the changes that have happened in the past years, to have authority to buy anything over $1,000, I mean,
It's pretty inefficient.
yeah, it's not very efficient. They're coming back all the time wanting approvals. So what this does is give them a little flexibility, and and they're managing these budgets, these expenses, so.
Department head still gives the approval for the purchase. That's the control factor.
And it still has to be within their budget.
Right.
Correct.
I noticed something, it might be splitting hairs, but I think the language in the ordinance does not comport with the description in the memo about the ordinance. So, for example, it says, I think our intention is to increase it to 3,000, but I think the way it's currently read, it would be $2,999.99. If it's 3,000 or greater,
Well, it was in the past. That's the same language that we carried over. So in the past, it said with an estimated cost of less than $1,000.
And this says less than $3,000.
Right.
$2,999.99.
Right.
You're identifying that discrepancy.
I mean, we can do it either way, one way or the other. It's either up to it's either up to $29.99 and then 3,000 and above is a different procedure, or it's up to 3,000 and then 3,001 is a different procedure. So it's however you.
We're okay with that, aren't you?
But it says less than 3,000.
don't need to amend it.
Okay. But it's a good point.
I will vote for it in its current format.
Makes sense.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-9.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Nancy and a second from Kevin. Any further discussion on it?
And this is for all departments.
Departments. Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance number 2022-9 has passed.
Before we, could we build in a process when a person from the community wants to speak so that we can let them know what the parameters are up front before, like she assumed that she was going to have half an hour if she needed it or whatever. And when they go to Alan, if we just said whatever the structure is, could explain it to them, then I think it'd be a little bit smoother. And
I really don't know how that process happened. I mean, I don't know who she spoke to. I guess she called maybe Alan's office.
well, he has the control of the agenda.
Yeah, so I didn't know, I've never met her or spoken to her. I didn't know who she was or that she was even on the agenda until the agenda came out.
Because I just read an email, so put it on the agenda.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, Kevin, that people know, just like we do in the BZA or the Planning Commission, we allow, I think it's two minutes?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. You know, if we specify up front, you know, how much time a person has, especially if it's an information sharing, which is what this was.
The other point that she did bring up that I liked there too, and I think we got a little better with this on BZA and Plan as time came along too, is having that agenda out on the public website a few days in advance. Not Monday or Tuesday, and if we amend something, that's fine, but she brought up the point of not knowing what's coming up for the public to get here and see. We've got a nice interface on the web now to be able to maybe put that up on Thursday, Friday. I mean, I know things can come up, but for the most part, we know what we're going to be talking about.
Actually, that's one of the things that I'm going to have the legal intern working on this summer is reviewing our website and trying to make sure that it's up to date with all of the documents and notices and agendas.
And just,
She did make a valid point on that.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's-
absolutely.
Friday at noon. That was what, we would have our agenda by Friday at noon, and that gives us the weekend to read through it, read through documents.
Be prepared.
Prepared.
Yeah.
I still think it's a good practice because I don't like getting at the last minute either.
Yep.
And Mayor, you had told her she could have 5 minutes. I think you said BZA or somebody, there's 2 to 3 minutes. So it seemed like several years ago, we did determine what that time frame was.
I don't know about the council having that. I think we've done it in certain circumstances for specific, like when we, for example, when we had our Beaver Lake meetings. We had so many people. Right off the bat, we said that we had to limit it to new information and a certain amount of time, just because of the sheer volume of people. But
And I believe in everybody having their voice. I think in this situation, though, that we were not in a position to make any decisions, that it's information sharing, and that the debate will happen eventually once we get a Tier 1 study complete. But it's not.
Just so someone knows ahead of time, yes,
Yeah.
they're allowed to be on the agenda, and they have 5 minutes or whatever that amount of time is determined, that Alan would tell them going in, so they don't have a whole book.
Is that something we need to put on there too, that how to speak at a meeting, or, how to get approved or whatever there? I mean, I wouldn't have any idea how they do it.
Clarification for you guys as well on the PCA, and that we're 15 minutes for a presentation and limited to 20 minutes for demonstrators. That way we don't get, if something comes up, a total, and we get to a point where people want to come in and we get 6 people that are opposed to the same thing, and 4 of them repeat the exact same information time and time again. So we kind of limited them to two on that, unless the entire board votes to override that rule and that the president's discretion. So,
And that's the undetermined. I mean, if we want to let her, she could have talked longer, we could.
yeah, that's right.
And Alan, you'll please forward those, the documents she entered into the record to the rest of us, please. Thank you.
Okay, Renee, there was something else we were going to bring up tonight. That was?
well,
Districting.
while we're thinking about it, I did include on the memo information about the redistricting. And so we're in the process of that. The goal for that is to bring an ordinance to the council in June, and to send notification letters out to any property owner whose parcel or of property has been changed from one district to another, or in many cases, it's multiple parcels are being changed. So they will know that they can come to the June meeting and provide comment. I think that's what you all said you wanted. So we'll be sending those out relatively soon, I hope by June 1st. And then also we're continue to work on the animal control ordinance language, and we're almost done with the first draft of that. So I'm planning on sending that out to the working group here in about a week, just to get comment and feedback. And then once I get that feedback from them, I'll send it out to the entire council for your feedback. We're also getting feedback from the residents who are involved in that work group, as well as the Humane Society. So we're trying to get feedback and comment from all different sides of that issue. I hate to call it an issue, but that project. That's all I had on my list.
I just have a comment about the redistricting proposal. The numbers are such, if my math is right, it's about not even 5.5% of the population being affected, but the tolerances are much tighter. So it's going to be a lot cleaner. I think it looks like a good and equitable proposal.
You weren't here earlier when I spoke to the mayor, so it doesn't make any sense for my district to take Leslie Drive, that strip across the road, because we've already crossed the highway and on the north side, and why don't you just add 1 or 2 more streets? If you need 10 homes, there's about 10 homes there, or the number of people. But that makes, the map's cleaner, and it's a lot easier to do that, I think. The mayor showed me the first time, and I didn't think about it enough, and after I went back and gave it some more thought, and I thought that doesn't make sense to do that.
We'll call a meeting with the working group here soon.
I'm sure there's a few tweaks that can be made, but in general, it's.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of effort goes into it, and I think good job with where we are right now. Okay, did mention this morning at the department head meeting, we do have budget meetings coming up. We've got those scheduled August the 16th and 18th. 16th is full day and the 18th is the afternoon. And we'll be doing our preparation meetings with the department heads in the months of the rest of this month in June, July. So,
I did ask, as part of the ordinance, we have to include the number of people who have been added to the city since the census, and that number is one. One person has been annexed to the city since the census, so it won't change a lot. Well, two, one home.
one property.
It took us a long time to get that one annex too, if my memory serves.
Yeah.
And with the new annexation legislation that's out there, it is more of a volunteer annexation.
Right. We haven't taken any property by annexation since I've been here.
It seems like even in them annexation notices that I remember in the past, it tells them what district they're in, doesn't it? I think
Yeah.
there's a paragraph in there that says, it identifies what district they're in.
But that was during the census, but since then, was Brookstone 7?
No people.
No people then, yeah.
I mean, there potentially will be, but not yet.
What about A Street? Or that area down there?
That was maybe before, finalized before the census was.
2020.
Is there any other business we need to bring before the council? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Kevin.
Second.
I have a second from Chad. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.